Junta Shiraishi has always been invisible. He perceived this when he found his picture pasted onto the graduation photo even though he was present, but the school had mistakenly believed that he was absent. His unassuming nature often goes unnoticed by most, and some might even need to do a double take to recognize him, as he seems to blend into the background. Only his family and the strikingly popular Nagisa Kubo can effortlessly discern his presence in the bustling world around him. Sitting at his desk, Shiraishi begins to search for ways to get noticed by the people around him when Kubo arrives and begins to tease him, much to her delight. She takes a photo of his search history, causing him to panic. Turns out, Kubo is fascinated with his invisibility and constantly tests it to see how invisible he can become. She begins to question him if anyone would notice him if he stands up during class while showing him the photo she took, leaving no room for argument. With reluctance, Shiraishi stands up on his chair, but to his embarrassment, the teacher quickly spots him, and he hastily sits back down, his thoughts racing when he becomes so noticeable. As the class comes to an end, Kubo chimes in, expressing how much fun she had. She turns to Shiraishi, asking if he's upset with her. With a grin, she adds that he played the role of the class protagonist today. In response, Shiraishi quips that she must have been the villain for hatching this plan. Kubo, slightly irritated at being labeled a villain, notices Shiraishi's disheartened expression and quickly reassures him. She playfully insists that she's not a villain but rather his heroine. The following day, Kubo is noticeably irritated since Shiraishi didn't respond to her good morning greeting, although Shiraishi remains completely unaware of the situation. To calm her down, Shiraishi offers her a box of milk. Taking a sip from the box, Kubo sighs. As punishment, she decides to sit on Shiraishi's lap and discovers that not even one person notices her sitting on Shiraishi's lap in class. Over the weekend, at the park, Kubo notices Shiraishi and initiates a conversation to inquire about his reason for being there. Shiraishi explains that he originally came to purchase a newly released game but got sidetracked when he spotted someone distributing free tissues. This piqued his curiosity, and he began contemplating various strategies to grab the attention of those giving out the free tissues. After attempting several methods to capture their notice, Shiraishi ultimately concludes that the most effective approach is to simply ask for the tissues directly. Soon after this, Kubo tries to take a picture of Shiraishi, but her camera fails to recognize his face. So to take the picture, she almost has to sit on him again. Afterward, she finally gets his phone number. Unused to texting people, Shiraishi is surprised when Kubo asks if they can hang out sometime. As Kubo happily walks in her home, Kubo's older sister inquires about her blushing face, but Kubo, feigning ignorance, shrugs her off. During the school's gym class, Shiraishi wearily traverses through the hallway, his energy depleted by the extensive running he has endured. His partner's inability to spot him necessitates him to vocally remind his companion of his presence each time he crossed the finish line. This dual effort of running and shouting added to his exhaustion with each lap. Seeking solace, Shiraishi leans against the window railing, deliberately drawing deep breaths to regain composure. It's only when Kubo finally discerns his presence and inquiries about their running session's completion that he retreats hesitantly, stating that he was sweaty and likely smelled bad. As Kubo approaches him, she seizes his shirt and discreetly inhales its scent before declaring her indifference, leaving Shiraishi flustered as he withdraws. Observing his reaction, Kubo swiftly departs, promising a swift return. Unbeknownst to Shiraishi, she surprises him by gently patting his neck with a fragrant towel, rejoicing in the notion that they now share a matching aroma. Later on, during Shiraishi's manga shopping excursion, he encounters a persistent automatic door that refuses to acknowledge his presence. While passing by, Kubo finds his frustration to be cute and assists him, prompting Shiraishi to startle and step back. Within the bookstore's confines, Kubo inquires about his selection as Shiraishi excitedly presents his favorite manga, his face beaming with happiness and delight. Witnessing his reaction, Kubo contemplates the idea of reading it but notices that the initial volume is absent. She asks Shiraishi if she can borrow it, setting the stage for a potential bond. Soon enough, they discover that they live just a mere 5 minutes apart from each other. After retrieving the manga from Shiraishi's abode, Kubo departs but not before probing him for his school departure time. The next morning, Kubo rises up early and, after dressing herself up, opts to use her sister Akina's perfume. Akina takes notice of this and teases Kubo about having a crush while extending her best wishes to her. Sometime later, Kubo crosses paths with Shiraishi, offering him a cheerful good morning, though she is mildly disheartened by his failure to detect the fragrance of her perfume. Both make their way towards school, and Kubo suggests they occupy a bench, given the surplus of time before the school bell rings. Before long, Kubo's friends, Azuki and Tamao, arrive, oblivious to Shiraishi's presence until Kubo points him out. After school, there is a heavy downpour, and Shiraishi realizes that he forgot to bring an umbrella. Kubo proposes the idea of sharing an umbrella, which was initially met with reluctance on Shiraishi's part. However, her stubbornness to leave without an umbrella eventually persuades Shiraishi to agree, leading them to a shared journey under the shelter of the same umbrella. Unfortunately, Shiraishi's invisible status causes a passing car to drench him from a puddle. In need of a shower upon arrival home and having misplaced his key, Kubo extends an invitation for him to shower at her house and borrow her gym tracksuit. Shiraishi, albeit somewhat awkwardly, accepts. Yet, upon seeing Kubo's undergarments in the laundry, their situation takes an unforeseen turn. While going home, Shiraishi remains hyper-conscious of donning Kubo's tracksuit. The following day, Shiraishi dutifully returns Kubo's tracksuit, thoroughly laundered and dried. Accepting the bag from Shiraishi, Kubo playfully inquires about his height, learning that he is only 1 inch taller than her, causing her tease to him, stating that in couples, the ideal height difference is typically around 15 centimeters. As the school day draws to a close, Kubo observes Shiraishi's evident hurry to leave school. Sitting on a bench in park, Shiraishi kept a watchful eye on his much younger brother, Seda, relishing in the joy of shaping snow into a big sizable snowball before crafting a normal-sized snowball and offering it to his elder sibling, who remains perched on the bench. Placing the snowball beside him, Shiraishi folds his arms, with his thoughts drifting towards the biting cold. His thoughts are abruptly interrupted when a drink is pressed gently against the back of his head. The person who did this, to his surprise, is none other than Kubo herself. Kubo has chanced upon the sight of Shiraishi at the park, accompanied by his younger brother. Spotting the beverage in Kubo's possession, Seda expresses his desire to drink it, eventually suggesting they share the drink. Kubo acutely observes that Shiraishi merely feigns drinking and correctly discerns his embarrassment over the concept of an indirect kiss. Shiraishi's quest to purchase a manga poster is hindered by his embarrassment, as the magazine housing the poster features a swimsuit-clad model on its cover. To evade potential acquaintances, Shiraishi ventures to the most distant store from his residence. Upon reaching the magazine section, he is relieved to go unnoticed in the bustling crowd. As the crowd dissipates, his gaze canes upon an adult magazine, tempting his curiosity. However, he is spotted by Akina, the store employee who bears Kubo's surname. This encounter prompts Shiraishi to think that perhaps people with Kubo as their surname can easily notice him. Though he manages to purchase his desired magazine, he inadvertently drops his student ID in the process. Akina, observing this incident, retrieves the student ID and recognizes it as it belongs to the same school her younger sister attends. Upon returning home, she passes the ID to Kubo, along with a humorous comment about Shiraishi's choice of magazine. Kubo, sporting a more moderate figure herself, playfully teases him the following day, inquiring if he has a preference for women with big talents. Kubo arranges to spend Christmas Eve shopping with Shiraishi. Upon their meeting, she surprises him with a gift and suggests he reciprocate the gesture. Determined, Shiraishi embarks on a quest to find the perfect present, scouring various stores to no avail. Eventually, he settles on a pair of gloves, taking into consideration that Kubo has been enduring the cold while waiting for him. Kubo, upon receiving her gift, is somewhat embarrassed, as she has chosen to gift him a vibrant yellow main character shirt intended to make him more easily identifiable to others. While playing with Seda, Kubo slyly captures a video of Shiraishi acting whimsically, causing him considerable embarrassment. Throughout the day, Shiraishi remains uneasy as he inadvertently wears a pair of socks with differing lengths to school, an unnoticed quirk that nags at his mind. His thoughts wander, and he finds himself observing Kubo, sensing a subtle change in her demeanor. However, he struggles to pinpoint the source of this alteration. It's only when Kubo seeks his help in affixing a teacher's notice that he becomes aware of his inability to reach it. He volunteers to use a chair but is soon reassured by Kubo, who playfully chides him for his concern over his mismatched socks. Shiraishi subsequently turns his attention to Kubo and notices her choice of attire tights instead of socks. Kubo nonchalantly explains that her socks were still damp, prompting a teasing remark from her about his gaze being fixed upon her legs. Throughout the day, after the school day, Kubo takes Shiraishi to a store to have a complex drink she has yet to experience, insisting that he oversee the order to prevent any mishaps. She offers to share the drink, but Shiraishi politely declines, stating his hesitation to the concept of an indirect kiss. Instead, he opts for a meat bun. However, Kubo mischievously takes a bite of his snack before departing. Before Shiraishi can even contemplate embracing the notion of a new indirect kiss, a collision causes him to drop the food. With Valentine's Day approaching, Shiraishi remains unconcerned, given his belief that he largely goes unnoticed by most girls. Yet, as he takes his seat at desk, he stumbles upon a chocolate heart within his desk, prompting him to panic, as he deems it to be impossible that he would receive such tokens. He briefly considers the possibility that Kubo might be the mysterious benefactor, but she verbally denies any involvement. Instead, she does drop hints at the presence of a secret admirer, leaving Shiraishi to ponder the source of the chocolate. In reality, Kubo's culinary skills are notoriously subpar, and she devotes considerable time attempting to craft chocolates with rather dismal results. In the end, she resorts to seeking assistance from her sister, Akina, aware that she will face playful teasing later on. The final product is far from perfect, with only the chocolate heart attaining any semblance of perfection, while the rest sport irregular shapes. Shiraishi relishes the heart-shaped treat but remains genuinely perplexed about the identity of the secret admirer. Throughout his school life, Shiraishi has eaten his lunch alone during lunch breaks. However, on one particular day, Kubo decides to break this pattern and joins him. As Shiraishi starts his meal, Kubo suggests they share their lunches. Shiraishi tries to evade her playful hand-feeding endeavors but eventually finds himself hand-feeding her, much to Kubo's delight. After the meal, Kubo playfully states to cook something special for their next shared meal. In a cafe with her friends Heizuki and Tamao, Kubo becomes the subject of teasing regarding her apparent first love. Both friends are convinced that Kubo harbors feelings for Shiraishi, but Tamao expresses disappointment, citing Shiraishi's perceived lack of handsomeness, intellect, or athleticism. Kubo's temper flares up as she scolds Tamao, insisting that she doesn't understand the true Shiraishi hidden beneath his invisibility and shouldn't speak about him in such a manner behind his back. Seeing her friend visibly mad at her, Tamao apologizes, although their exchange does lead them to realize that the crush they were joking about might just be evolving into genuine love, though Kubo remains unaware of it for the time being. The following day, Shiraishi arrives at school unusually early, entertaining the notion that he might be the first to arrive, although he anticipates he will probably go unnoticed as usual. However, he discovers that Kubo has beaten him to it, and is immersed in her music. Trying not to disturb her, Shiraishi takes his seat, causing Kubo to share one of her earphones with him, proposing they listen to each other's music. After Shiraishi mentions that the song they're listening to comes from his favorite manga's anime adaptation, Kubo notices his passion for manga. She decides to give Shiraishi's beloved anime series a try. Her older sister, Akina, observes this with amusement, fully aware of Kubo's intentions and motivations. White Day soon arrives, and Shiraishi purchases chocolates but remains clueless about the identity of his anonymous secret admirer. Spotting Kubo in class, Shiraishi requests a private conversation and presents the chocolates to her, asking her to pass them on to his admirer. Kubo playfully teases him, subtly hinting that she might or might not be the mysterious admirer, leaving Shiraishi in a state of even greater perplexity than before. As Shiraishi makes his way home from the convenience store, he accidentally drops his handkerchief. Surprisingly, a young girl he encounters on the street kindly returns it to him. This young girl turns out to be none other than Saki, Kubo's cousin, leaving Shiraishi to connect the dots. He then realizes that Akina, the shop assistant who sold him the magazine, is actually Kubo's older sister. Amused, Akina teases him about Saki's cuteness, remarking on the striking resemblance between Saki and Kubo. She even shares a photo of Kubo from her middle school days and exchanges phone numbers with Shiraishi, further deepening his suspicion that Kubo's ability to see him may be hereditary. Akina returns home, armed with fresh ammunition for teasing Kubo. With exams looming on the horizon, Shiraishi's mother issues a stern warning about confiscating his games should he perform poorly. Observing others studying in groups, Shiraishi opts to head to the library to prepare for the exams. However, as he struggles to comprehend the material, Kubo spots him and offers her assistance. She retrieves a pair of glasses from her librarian friend and joins Shiraishi, who grapples with the decision of whether to seek her help, fearing potential teasing that could jeopardize his gaming privileges. To his relief, Kubo reassures him, stating that she wouldn't mock someone genuinely trying their best. Under Kubo's tutelage, Shiraishi grasps the concepts effortlessly. A high fever forces Shiraishi to miss school the following day, with only Kubo noticing his absence. After school, Kubo texts Shiraishi to inquire if he'll be attending school the next day. However, a playful Seda inadvertently triggers his phone, sending an I miss you emoji to Kubo. Shiraishi quickly clarifies the situation, stating that the message was sent by Seda. Kubo playfully responds with a lonely without you emoji, purportedly from her sister, Akina. The next day, Shiraishi contemplates whether to enter class or remain unnoticed in the hallway. His dilemma is resolved when he encounters Kubo in the hallway, now afflicted by her own fever, recognizing her in need for assistance. He helps her to the infirmary and ensures she's comfortably tucked into bed, with Kubo holding onto his hand until she falls asleep, a significant moment that prompts Shiraishi to realize, for the first time, that he feels like the protagonist of his own life story. Thanks to Kubo's diligent tutoring, Shiraishi manages to tackle his exams successfully. However, with the prospect of becoming second years, the current class will be reshuffling, which might separate him and Kubo, casting a shadow over their current dynamic. After school, as rain begins to fall, Kubo seizes the opportunity to manipulate Shiraishi into sharing an umbrella, trying to test if it makes him visible, though Shiraishi harbors a suspicion that her real motive is simply to walk together. On their way home, Shiraishi opts for a less crowded route to evade prying eyes, a choice that amuses Kubo, who takes pleasure in teasing him. Unbeknownst to them, they are spotted by Akina, who chooses not to taunt Kubo on this particular occasion. During the weekend, Shiraishi notices Saki struggling with a pair of heavy shopping bags and offers to assist her. Saki hesitates initially, determined to make Nagi proud, but eventually concedes to Shiraishi's help after reading his message to Kubo. Saki's curiosity about the relationship between Shiraishi and Kubo prompts her to make a request. She asks Shiraishi to address Kubo by her first name, Nagisa. Saki's deduction about the closeness between them is based on Kubo's reaction, suggesting that their bond goes beyond being just classmates. During a classroom moment of distraction, Shiraishi dismantles his pen and fiddles with the spring inside, ultimately losing it. As he searches for the missing spring, he catches Kubo observing him with a complex expression. She inquires if his pen is broken, but before she can delve further, the teacher directs them to retrieve their printouts and commence grading. In response, Kubo offers him a rabbit toy pen that matches hers, eliciting a smile, stating that they're matching now. During a sleepover at Kubo's house, Tamao and Heizuki discuss the impending class reshuffling, contemplating the possibility of being separated from one another. The idea of not sharing the same class or participating in school events together deeply upsets them. Their conversation also underscores Kubo's distress at the prospect of losing Shiraishi, though she remains silent on the matter. While Shiraishi idly scrolls through his phone on the sofa, his mother requests him to go on a grocery shopping trip, with Seda eagerly joining. While they start their shopping trip, Kubo unexpectedly comes across them and quietly distances herself from Saki and Akina, who are also out shopping for groceries. Seda is captivated by the sight of Saki and bashfully takes refuge behind his older brother before presenting Saki with his cherished pretty rock. Akina soon arrives, her demeanor tinged with teasing mischief, and invites them to a flower viewing picnic the following day. Meanwhile, Kubo grapples with the task of peeling an onion while seeking guidance from Saki. She attempts to teach Kubo how to cut an onion, but an accidental slip of the knife results in Kubo cutting her finger, much to Saki's dismay. Akina intervenes and persuades Saki that Kubo feels compelled to feed Shiraishi something she has prepared herself. Disinclined toward Shiraishi in the first place, Saki reluctantly assists Kubo in crafting Hamburg steak, given Kubo's history of inedible culinary creations. Kubo learns from her mistakes and tries again, successfully preparing the steaks to perfection. However, Saki asserts her dominion over the first bite. The following day, the group of 5 searches for their ideal picnic spot in the park. Kubo playfully teases Shiraishi about his anticipation of her cooking. During the picnic, Seda, with a crimson blush, samples the dishes prepared by Saki first. As they enjoy their meal, Kubo ensures that Shiraishi receives one of the steaks she prepared, which he finds utterly delicious, eliciting a joyful response from her. Meanwhile, Akina quickly gets drunk and begins teasing Shiraishi about marriage, even pushing her talents into his face, which causes her to face Kubo's furious anger and leads to her scolding Akina before storming off. Shiraishi attempts to approach her, but his legs fall asleep, prompting Saki to call him pathetic. Seda insists that Shiraishi fix the situation, so he hurries after Kubo and profusely apologizes, though she remains upset. Kubo struggles to comprehend why she is angry with Shiraishi when it was clearly Akina's fault. Her mood lifts when Seda tugs on her shirt, urging her to resolve the situation. As Shiraishi sits on the ground, disheartened, Kubo extends her apology to Shiraishi, who candidly admits that she continually confuses him, a statement that brings a smile to her face. Seda then suggests that they hold hands, eliciting a grin from Kubo. As they both hold Seda's hand, Kubo surprises Shiraishi by inquiring if he would like to be in her class next year, leaving him taken aback. The beginning of the second year of high school marks a pleasant surprise for Shiraishi as he discovers that once again, he and Kubo share the same class and adjacent seats. Much to Kubo's delight, her friends Heizuki and Tamao are also in the same class. Shiraishi realizes, for the first time, that he is genuinely looking forward to the upcoming year. During a class discussion, the teacher inquired about students interested in joining the environmental committee. Shiraishi discloses his enjoyment of tending to flowers the previous year, relishing the admiration people bestowed upon the blossoms he nurtured. Kubo interjects, suggesting that the flowers he tended last year became a school mystery, as nobody spotted him caring for them, and many assumed it was a miraculous occurrence. In a surprising twist, Kubo joins the environmental committee while also roping Shiraishi into joining it. During a free period, Kubo observes that their new classmate, Sudu, possesses a vivid recollection of working with Shiraishi on the environmental committee the prior year. Most of the boys in class engage in discussions suggesting that Shiraishi only joined the committee to get closer to Kubo. However, Sudo defends Shiraishi's intentions, noting that all the flowers he cared for thrived, while the one he had looked after were perished. Sudo had then spent his entire first year trying to engage Shiraishi in conversation but could never spot him. Witnessing this, Kubo arranges for the three of them to be in the same science group. In science class, Shiraishi notes that his partners are Kubo and Sudo. As they copy notes, Shiraishi observes Sudo nervously fiddling with his pencil box, with Kubo grinning cheekily. Kubo proceeds to open Shiraishi's pencil box, revealing multiple erasers inside. She then inquires about the number of erasers he possesses, and Shiraishi explains that he has 5 since there is a test today. Shiraishi earns a chuckle from Sudo, who then borrows an eraser from him, expressing his desire for one, and then both of them have a small talk, much to Shiraishi's delight. As Shiraishi had rarely spoken to anyone before, he thanked Kubo for her assistance, surprising her and causing her to blush. On their way home, Shiraishi pauses in front of a vending machine to quench his thirst but accidentally selects water instead of his desired beverage, due to being startled by Kubo's sudden presence. As they walk home, Shiraishi acknowledges that he and Kubo are now friends, albeit much to her slight annoyance, as he hadn't classified them as such a while ago. Kubo proposes a staring contest with Shiraishi, who initially attempts to break the ice by making a comical face, assuming that the objective is to make her laugh. However, Kubo reveals that it's the first time they've gazed into each other's eyes, causing Shiraishi to bury his face in his desk in embarrassment. Kubo emerges victorious in the contest and, on the spot, decides his penalty, that he must greet her first in the morning. After Shiraishi's classmates inadvertently drench him in chalk dust while they were dusting the dusters near the windows, he tries to remove the chalk. Kubo lends him a hand, brushing the dust from his hair, all the while pressing him to disclose his preferred hairstyle for girls. Shiraishi eventually settles on a ponytail. Later, Kubo brings up the upcoming physical checkup, mentioning that it is scheduled for the next day. She then deeply starts at Shiraishi and states that he has grown taller, insisting on comparing their heights against a wall. She directs him to stand erect against a wall, while she uses a ruler to measure. When it was Kubo's turn, Shiraishi tried to flee, as this situation puts them in really close proximity to the wall, leaving Shiraishi deeply embarrassed. He attempts to flee but Kubo has grasped his shirt, but when Kubo lets go, Shiraishi runs away. Little did he know, this brief encounter had left Kubo weak in the knees. True to his promise, the next morning, Shiraishi greets Kubo first, fulfilling the condition of their previous contest and earning her approval. He also returns the ruler to her from the previous day. As the physical exam begins, Kubo unexpectedly asks Shiraishi if she can borrow his tracksuit jacket, leaving him puzzled, but is unable to return it to him due to the exam starting. During the exam, it becomes apparent that girls are wearing their boyfriend's jackets as a trend. After school, Shiraishi secretly follows Seda on his first errand to buy eggs and encounters Akina along the way, who tells him that Kubo's first errand was also to buy eggs. They both make sure to stay out of Seda's sight and return home only when Seda has successfully bought the eggs. Akina reminisces about how Kubo broke the eggs during her own errand but stopped crying when Akina stroked her head. Akina then subtly hints to Shiraishi that Kubo still enjoys having her head stroked, and it can be a surefire way to comfort her if she's upset. Shiraishi's excitement bubbles over as he learns that his favorite manga is getting a movie adaptation. Just as he starts to dwell on this thrilling thought, Kubo intrudes and inquires about his apparent enthusiasm. With Shiraishi sharing the news about the movie, Kubo reveals her own fondness for the manga and suggests that they should watch the film together, leaving him shocked. Seated in the shade beneath a tree, Shiraishi reflects on the fact that it's the first time he and Kubo are going out together. To his surprise, Kubo soon arrives sporting a ponytail, and he finds her appearance to be stunning. She playfully inquires if he likes her ponytail, and though Shiraishi manages to stutter out that it's not that bad, his heart felt like it would explode as it was beating so fast. During their train ride, Shiraishi offers Kubo the opportunity to hold the pull ring, but she opts instead to grasp the strap of his bag. At the next stop, the train becomes packed with passengers and the crowd forces Kubo and Shiraishi closer together. Shiraishi is forced to put himself into an uncomfortable position to avoid physical contact with Kubo while enduring unintentional jostling from the passengers oblivious to his presence. Upon exiting the train station, several guys make unwelcome advances toward Kubo, causing her to be extremely uncomfortable. Shiraishi then steps in, taking the guys by surprise. Kubo seizes Shiraishi's arm and asserts that he is her boyfriend, prompting the guys to depart with mixed feeling. They, however, do wish them both good luck. Kubo continues to cling to Shiraishi's arm long after the guys have departed. While he can't help but take note of it, due to their failure to pre-book movie tickets, They must wait several hours for seats together. Kubo suggests passing the time by exploring shops, cafes, department stores, or clothing boutiques. While at a cafe, Kubo teases Shiraishi after spotting a couple enjoying a couple's drink. Later, she is fascinated to discover that Shiraishi enjoys black coffee, commending him on his maturity. She persistently insists on trying it despite his initial resistance. However, she finds the bitter taste of black coffee overwhelming. Shiraishi suggests adding creamer and sugar, which she initially declines, preferring to drink the same as him. Eventually, Shiraishi gets a creamer and sugar for both of them, allowing Kubo to savor her coffee, even though it turns out to be too sweet for Shiraishi's liking in the end. During the movie, Kubo notices that Shiraishi's face displays more emotions than usual. When confronted about this, Shiraishi admits that he typically conceals his expressions due to embarrassment, though Kubo states that he's easy to read. After the movie concludes, Shiraishi accompanies Kubo on her way home, promising to visit other places together in the future. On his way back home, Shiraishi thinks about the secret emotions that Kubo might have discovered from his expressive face. One day, after watching a popular personality test on television, Kubo initiates a conversation with Shiraishi about their beliefs in fortune-telling and psychological tests. Shiraishi expresses a somewhat skeptical view, suggesting that such tests shouldn't be taken too seriously and should be taken with a grain of salt. Kubo then proposes that they try running a test on Shiraishi since he hasn't seen it, and the result indicates that he will likely only love one woman in his entire life. Just as Shiraishi starts to contemplate the idea of being content with dating only one person in his life, Kubo playfully interrupts him. She encourages Shiraishi to perform another online test on her. The test results reveal that she has a strong desire to have many children, which leaves her feeling embarrassed, causing her to leave early. Meanwhile, Akina observes that her sister Kubo is maturing lately and fondly recalls their childhood memories together, where she used to follow her around and copy everything Akina did. On Shiraishi's birthday, he finds himself daydreaming about cake when his stomach lets out a loud growl, attracting the attention of the entire class. An amused Kubo hands him a birthday-themed chocolate to appease his hungry stomach, surprising him with her memory of his birthday in April. She also gifts him a soft toy that she thinks bears a striking resemblance to him, and Shiraishi gratefully declares that he will cherish it. He then inquires about Kubo's birthday and promises somewhat awkwardly to buy her a gift for her birthday in August. Overwhelmed by the realization that someone actually remembered his birthday, Shiraishi can't help but hide his face to conceal his smiling expression. As Shiraishi reflects on these interactions, he begins to wonder why Kubo is the only one who can easily see him. Kubo remembers that she first learned about his invisibility after seeing him in Tamao's middle school yearbook. From that point on, she started noticing him more frequently and found his invisibility amusing. When they were assigned seats beside each other and had their first conversation, Shiraishi's reaction entertained her so much that she decided to engage with him on a daily basis. If you liked what you saw, consider subscribing to the channel and stay tuned for more quality uploads.